Good evening, everybody. How is everyone doing tonight? I am here with Shane Carpenter from Ozark Mountain, Sasquatch, and I see Randy is in the chat already. Hi, Randy. And let me just say hi to everybody else real quick. Hi, Judy. Hi, Gary. Hi, Pyromedic. Anthony, I saw you were in here. How are you guys all doing tonight? Chiro Sounds, how are you? Well, I got a treat for you guys tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm excited because I know you guys have all heard me say this a million times since I started this channel that if I think anybody's ever going to prove anything, it will be Shane and Randy. And they're just getting so close, guys. They're just rocking it. They are hitting it out of the park, and I'm excited to have Shane here tonight. I was hoping Randy would click on that link. Hi, Claude. Hi, Cynthia. And come on in, Randy. I sent you the link, Randy. But we are going to kind of go over some stuff. Get like a researcher's update that you guys have gotten some new evidence. So you want to talk a little about some of it?
Yeah. So since we discussed all this last, Randy, I think I told you that we were planning on Randy being out in the 400 a lot by himself, this summer, and we did that. Randy did several trips on his own, stayed for 7 to 10 days at a time, and I would come in on weekends. And so a lot of times he would be there throughout the week, and then I would come in on the weekend, and then he'd stay a few more days and go home. And so we repeated that process several times. And we, as a lot of people know, we took a film crew out with us, and just a 3-person crew. That's all we would allow. And turned out to be like one of the best decisions we've made, together, me and Randy, in a long time, as far as finding the right people to work with that were going to stay true to things that were happening in the story and not embellish things. And so that worked out really great. Leading up to that, we were capturing knocks, clacks, a lot of the same audio. We don't even actually, if you go back through me and Randy's interviews, it's very rarely that we'll even show those things and let people hear those things in interviews, because we just get them so often, they're not really that big of a deal to us. We still clip them, but so that was one of the things I thought, we'd do tonight too, is just throw a few knocks and sounds out there, while we're at this, and because we never do. So Randy at one point was out by himself, and he was at the main camp, and the creek runs just north on the north side of camp. It's 20, 30 yards away from camp. And he was sitting there one night, and he had his whole gear set up for his thermal. Is like he has a deal that he puts on, and it holds a screen right here, and the thermal is mounted on a kind of like a walking stick or a pole, and so he can watch this, so we can watch the screen and keep our backs to whatever we're filming, things like that. It's useful in a lot of different situations. You can use the pole to push it into thickets and stuff, to get it closer if something's in a thicket. Anyway, he's sitting there, and he's got it all off on the table, and he's kind of revamping it somewhat and changing some things out and fixing some things. And he's got it sitting on the table, the thermal itself, I believe, or no, the thermal was sitting on the pole, and he's got a spot next to a table where, it sits a lot when we're sitting at camp, and he can just do a 360 scan with it. And where it happened to be pointing, he looks at the screen, and there's a heat signature there. And
wow.
So we got about 17 minutes of video. And the first thing he's trying to do is, because it's not moving, and he, of course he's facing it. And that's what happens a lot, is these things will not move. They'll just freeze, or they'll barely move, so slow that you don't know they're moving until half of them, half of what you're seeing is gone. But this thing seemed to freeze while he was facing it. And so he literally took the camera off the subject, did a 360, like he's questioning himself, at this point. And like the thing is way hotter than everything else, and where this thing is, there's like a 6.5 to 7 foot drop off into the creek. So this thing was down in the creek bed, the dry creek bed at this spot. And anyway, there's a couple pictures that I sent you. One of them is what he captured that night, and one of them is me in the same spot. And I didn't send you the video from the backside. I have video too of the daytime on the backside out in the creek, looking at where it was, so you can actually see this big drop off. And there's like a little gravel ledge, and when we were recreating it, I was standing up on this little gravel ledge that is a couple foot up. And I had to do that to expose enough of my head and my body to kind of match what he was seeing. But in this video, he like does a 360. When he gets back, it looks like it's shifted and moved somewhat. And then eventually he doesn't have time to like stop and put this whole harness and stuff on. So he just I think if I remember right, he just picked it all up and decided to go towards it. And the area that he would have had to go through is like a lot of down trees and stuff. So he just, the subject say is here. And we have a trail that goes right out to the creek that goes here straight out to it, like at a 90. And this was, the subject was off at an angle. So he went out through there, and as he's trying to keep the camera on it and stuff, and you see it, throughout the camera movement and whatnot. And as he's getting out to the creek, you hear Randy say, "I just heard gravel. I just heard something in the gravel," and the creek was dry at that time. And anyway, he goes out to the creek bed and points the camera over to where the subject was, and it's not there anymore. And so he's scanning the other side of the creek, and eventually captures some heat signature up there. At one point, it like stops, and there's like a cedar, some down cedars and stuff up in that area, if I remember correctly. And it like dropped down behind those, and eventually it kind of moved off up, out of where he couldn't see it, and the leaves were still in and stuff, at this point, and everything was still very thick. So that was the first good thermal that we captured, and he captured it on his own. And that's what we were trying to make happen with him being out there more on his own this year. Is like I felt like these things are really accustomed to me, because I'm when it's out there the most, and have been out there for 5 years now. So I wanted to give Randy a chance to be out there alone more, so that hopefully these things would warm up to him, right? And eventually what we discovered is that the two subjects that we were targeting and that we've targeted this whole time are not there anymore. They're gone. We're not finding their tracks. We've still found what we assume is the mother's tracks. And there's a new set of 9.5-inch tracks, and there's a new set of 6-inch tracks. So long story short, 2.5, 3 years ago, during COVID and some other things happened within the family that owns a property, we weren't there for 2.5 years, right? We had to pull out, give the family space, and a lot of things along with COVID. So going back, we expected or hoped to have the same two juvies there, but we also knew that at some point these juvies were probably going to come of age, hit puberty, what have you. Most mammals, they hit puberty and they start looking to mate, or if not, a male finds them looking to mate, right? So we assume that at some point they're probably going to be gone and disappear from the situation. We also knew 2.5, 3 years ago that I had found a 6-inch print, and it was in water, and I wasn't able to cast it. I didn't have casting material with me anyway. But that, along with some other things, and we thought there was a chance that the mother was carrying around a young one, right? And long story short, via the growth rate that we've been seeing and the tracks that we've casted over the years out there of those same individuals, the growth rate seems to be what it should be going by those numbers. And the one that had 6 to 7 inch tracks back then now has 9.5 inch tracks. We think that it's the same individual, right? And we're now casting its tracks, and there's a new set of 6 inch tracks, which means that there's probably another young one that mother has. And we're also finding these holes that are being dug, usually within 24 hours of a rain, and the stick will still be in them. Like, so it'll rain, and usually within 24 hours, or after, within 24 hours of that rain, I find these holes that are being dug. And the set of 6 inch tracks that we found actually led to one of these holes. The first one that
Wow.
I came across, there was 4 or 5 after it, and they went in towards this thicket, and there was a hole there with the stick still in it, and the end of the stick's all dirty from digging the hole. And so we're finding stuff like that. We captured. Well, let me take a step back. I'll just tell you the whole story, and then we'll go through the things I sent you. Is that cool?
That's cool.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to take a deep breath. All right. So we take this stuff was happening before we brought this film crew out. This film crew, there's actually a picture if you want to show that real quick.
Yeah, yes.
Of everybody that was involved. And Dan Nedrolo was also there. Our media and internet guy, Gary Schutte, he got to come in just for a day and a night, but he still got to come out and see some actual juvenile Sasquatch tracks in person. And then, of course, me and Randy, and then we had this 3-man crew. Cynthia Hill, Blair Johnson she's a camera lady. She's very good at what she does and awesome. Cynthia Hill, she's an Emmy Award-winning documentary filmmaker. And then my good friend, Alex Merkin, who is also a director, producer. So there's all of us. That's the whole Ozark Mountain Sasquatch crew out there. And yeah, we had some good times.
I love it.
So Cynthia, she's the female in front there with the lighter colored hair.
Here.
When this all kind of went down, and her and Blair and Alex, all decided that they were all three going to get involved with us in this. She came in. She was coming in with the intentions of, I'd go in, like, she's not a believer. She's a skeptic, right? Didn't know anything about the subject really until she started having, talking with us and discussing these things. And so we had told her, when you come out here, there's things are going to happen, right? There's going to be things that are going to happen. And so her being a skeptic, her idea was, well, I'll come out, and if things don't happen, then, we'll just make this about you and Randy and your lives and, the things that make us tick and why we're so ate up with this subject and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
Well, going back to what we told her, then we finished that off. Well, like, you don't understand. You're going to come out, you're going to see things, you're going to experience things, and you're going to become a part of this documentary, right? You're going to be experiencing these things. So they had been there for 2 hours, and her and Blair take a walk down the trail, and they're going to go find them a potty spot, right? Dig their own little hole, away from camp and stuff. And this is during the day, right? I believe it was about 5:30 in the afternoon. We brought them in about 3:30. So yeah, it was about 5:30. So they go out, find them a spot in between the creek and the trail. And Cynthia kind of glanced up towards the creek, which is dried, at that point in time. And something black streaks down the creek. She's of course looking through trees and foliage and stuff, but
right.
something black bolts down the creek. Seemed to be on all fours. Didn't have a tail. Should, because it was on all fours, she was trying to like compare it to like
To a
bigger than
bear or
bigger,
something like
bigger
that.
yeah, bigger than a coyote, but not as big as a bear. And she didn't see any ears or no real good details because it was through foliage. But she had to then come back to camp and say, "Hey guys, what would be
This
running down the
be.
creek this time of day that's black?" And of course, we had Dan Nedrolo there, so Dan, starts naming off each and every possibility that it could have been, and of course, she couldn't like nail it down to anything, and like he's even thinking like a black coyote, you know.
Right.
They are out there, but anyway, she come back to camp and like had to immediately
Two
involve her
hours. She was there
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah. And it's amazing. It's amazing some of these things that have happened. Like the first time we brought Dan in, he had been there for
Yeah.
I think an hour, and we were 1,000 yards from camp and had one like pinned down where it couldn't go anywhere without being seen. And like he got to witness all that and see it on
Wow.
thermal, watch me walk out to it. And so there's, for whatever reason, like we've been real lucky with first timers, they come out
Right.
and boom, not everybody, but it's,
Yeah.
we've been fairly lucky, I guess, but
Now, if I remember right, is she the first female that's ever been to the 400?
yes.
Was there any did you notice that
There,
the activity was different with her because she was female?
there has been one other female there, but it was like very brief,
Mhm.
um, just a day thing. Um, it's hard to say, because like we went into this summer thinking and hoping that we were going to be dealing with the same two subjects that we had a lot of data on,
Right, right.
right? Um,
Mhm.
the data is not the same now because we have two different subjects, um, and then what we think is the mother.
Mhm.
So what we expect, according to the data that we have from the past, isn't necessarily what we can expect. So we've kind of had to take a jump back, take a step back or two, and go
Mhm.
back into our previous process, right, of like habituating these juvies.
Right.
So, and I'm in the process of doing that now. Like after we went out and filmed this first 10-day stretch with them, we haven't had them back yet because I'm going out every weekend and hiking and leaving bite-sized Snickers behind me on logs in particular places. And I'm actually I developed a new hike, and this new hike is leading them to where we're going to be moving camp. Hopefully within a month or two, we're moving to an area that is more strategic for them and for us, but it's
Okay.
but it's but it's better for us also. Like right now, we're in a spot where they have
Do they have the tactical advantage?
oh, big time, and lots of safe space. You know what I mean? Like they can stay on the other
Mhm.
side of the creek, which makes it hard to get to them. They can stay on the
Lots of distance
yes,
wherever they want.
they can stay on the
Mhm.
ridge behind us.
Right.
And so they have these really nice buffer zones, right?
Yeah.
Even to the east and west of us, like all the way around camp where it's at, our main base camp. And last time, what we'd done the same thing. We'd kind of found another spot where we wanted to lead them to, and the second camp that we started last time only had one spot they could come in safely without being seen, and it worked. They came, but those two juvies were very like so used to us. It was they would come in close and felt,
Mhm.
I guess, comfortable coming in within 20
Right.
yards of camp. Um, but this new camp is going to give them like four spots in a circular pattern around camp to come in
Mhm.
around us, and that's it. That narrows it down to four places for us too, knowing
Right.
that these are the best places that they could possibly come in without being seen. So I've had to find a new spot that's strategically good for them and
Limits
good for us.
them.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's a matter of it's just time, like I'll do this hike for the next month or two before we actually start to move camp. And in the process, every time we're out there on these 4 or 5 day stretches, we're, trying to get them and make them comfortable coming in and, spying with us, interacting, checking out camp while we're not there, those kind of things
Right,
at
right,
base camp. And as we see them get to a point where it seems as though they're getting fairly comfortable, that's when we'll move camp to the new camp, and they're already going to know where it's at because I'm leading them there on my hike every single weekend.
right.
Right. And then these 4 areas, I'm also baiting those 4 areas right now. Right. So we're kind of teaching them where we want to go per
Yes,
se,
yes,
with
yes.
and so that's
That's
where we're at right
perfect.
now. That's where we're at right now. Going back to the summer and the things that happened with the film crew out there. We also caught possible samurai chatter. You actually got to
Wow.
listen to it before we
I
came on
did. I
a little bit of
did.
it.
I feel so privileged. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome. You're
That
welcome.
was
I hope.
awesome. Oh my
Um,
God.
so we're,
Cool.
I don't know for sure when we're going to be able to release any of that because we're dealing with.
Mhm.
It's going to be it's going to be in the docu-series, of course. And right now, Scott Nelson has it, and he's comparing it to
With
the Sierra Sounds. And
which is exciting in itself that Scott Nelson has it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He's actually supposed to be calling me tonight, so I'm excited about that. But um,
Yay.
we're in a situation with him is he hasn't been able to get, from what I understand, he hasn't been able to get all the work that he's done on the Sierra Sounds peer reviewed because there's nothing to compare it to. So if
Yeah.
our audio matches the Sierra Sounds, that's going to give a second to compare to, which will allow him to hopefully, put his work through the peer review process. So this could be a really cool deal for him too.
Yeah. Randy wants to know my opinion of the audio. I heard. I I I have no words, and I really, Randy, it's very amazing. It's amazing. It's very clear. It's crystal clear. It's fabulous, and I'm excited for you guys. Oh my god. It's so cool.
So Scott, thank you. Thank you. Scott has, he's broken the Sierra Sounds down into like 600
Yeah.
different phonetics, I
Yeah.
guess, right?
Mhm.
So um, if he can find those same patterns and phonetics within ours that says it's a match from a couple thousand miles away from where the Sierra Sounds were captured, then that's going to
Oh,
give him something to compare to and hopefully
right.
allow that peer review process for him, which would be awesome for him. He's done so much work on that, and that would be a good payoff for him. All the everything that he's
Right.
done, and it's good for us too. So we're dealing with that, and like we want to release a little clip of it, and we're actually trying to set up maybe something with Daniela on the 21st. I told you we have an interview with her.
Yeah.
We're trying to set it up to release a little clip of it on her
Mm.
show, but it's kind of,
And that's gonna be
there's a lot of
on
people. Yeah, there's a lot of
hit
people involved. So
yeah, so that's gonna be on her channel, not Bigfoot Odyssey, it'll be on Hidden Existence,
yes,
and I think she said the 23rd, right?
we're the 21st.
21st? The 21st, okay, my
Yeah,
apologies,
yeah.
21st. Hidden Existence, guys, go check it out over there, okay? Don't
So
miss it.
we're trying to make that happen, but it's
Yeah,
there's we don't want to interrupt the peer review process if that's
right,
what he's going to do moving forward, and of course they don't want us to give it too much away because it's going to come out on the docu-series also, and
right.
so I'm dealing with a lot of that stuff. But when it comes down to it, like me and Randy have all this, we have the final word and the final say and everything, which is another cool thing that they're allowing
A
us with this docu-series is
a
that
rare thing.
yeah, me and Randy have
Yeah,
we have the final word and final say on the editing, and if there's
that's
something we don't
great.
want in, it's not in, and like a lot of crazy things happened out there, and personal things. I had something personal happen to me while I was out there, and it's like on camera. I was mic'd up when it happened, and I mean, so there's we're gonna do our best to like just leave it as is, even
Mm-hmm.
the personal stuff for the most part, because that's what we set out to do. Is whatever happens happens,
Mm-hmm.
and we show that the
Right.
honest truth of our trip, and so I may have some personal things in there that most people may not want in, but that's like part of the process, I guess. Holding my feet to the fire because that's what I've said all along. It has to be 100%. Has to be 100%. But anyway, we the night that we captured the audio of the possible chatter, um, Randy. So me and Alex, he was following me with a camera, and I had my thermal. Randy and everybody else had went out to the creek bed and launched his drone. And so what we were doing is we were headed out into this thicket area. We have a trail that runs down through the middle of it, and um, they were flying ahead. Me and Randy were talking on headsets, so we could communicate. And he's kind of moving ahead of us with the drone at like, I think 300 to 500 foot, and it's a thermal, so he can see heat signatures. And if he
Mm-hmm.
sees something worthy, yeah, he leads us. He talks to me, tells me, gives me coordinates, and we take off and go find the heat signature. Right. So we went through this process. At a certain point, me and Randy lost radio contact. And so he went ahead and took off on down and ended up going down to where the creek dumps and then flying back down to the creek to them. We went to our destination, and about a quarter of the way back, we stopped to do a scan with the thermal. And I was seeing this heat signature, looked like it was up on the ridge, and but I was just getting bits and pieces of it because of the foliage. I'm looking through, like, there's a thicket in front of me, like 30-40 yards of thicket, and then an incline up to this ridge with and there's trees all through this too. So I was just getting bits and pieces of this heat signature up there. And I'm telling Alex, he's filming, and I'm telling Alex, I've got a heat signature up there. I can't tell what it is. I'm just getting pieces of it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I pull up my beanie, and I'm like, what am I hearing? And we started hearing this stuff that turned into what sounds like the Sierra Sound chatter, what they call the samurai chatter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
And that's
it was
exactly what
like,
it sounds like.
yeah, I was like, holy cow. And it
Yeah.
was crazy for me in the moment because I've heard it out there before. I had it done up close and personal to me, and like we kind of knew at some point we would catch it again. It was just a matter of time, right? If it happened once, um, it would happen again, most likely,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we in the moment, I'm even questioning myself, like, what am I hearing? And I knew what it was. Like, I knew what it was, and still I'm like, what am I hearing? And I'm going through my head trying to go through all these this list of things in my head, trying to rule everything out in the moment, instead of just like really focusing on what we were listening to. But after it stopped, we sat there, and I told Alex in the beginning, like, at some point there's a good chance we're going to be in a situation, and I'm going to give you the option to like not follow me, because like if you're following me with a camera, something crazy happens, I'm going to go towards it. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to stay in place. I'm going to go try to see if I can see
Yeah.
and film what it is, right? And this is like it was either 2:30 or 3:30 in the morning. I think it was 2:30, around 2:30 in the morning. And so here's this moment with Alex, right? Now I get to like put him in check and see if
Mm-hmm.
he's the man for the job or not. So I look at him and I say, Alex, and he's sitting here like going, what the hell was that? And he knew too, like he's really into the subject. He's like a junkie. Um, but I looked at him and I said, Alex, I've got to go that away. I've got to go at least to the base of the ridge through the thicket and see if I can maybe catch something. Right. Said, if you want to wait here, or if you want to head back to camp, just stay on the trail. You can't miss it. We were only like 1,000 yards from camp again. And he looked at me and he said, if you go, I'm going. And I was like, we got the right people, man. We got the right people, and the ladies were the same way. If we were going, they were going too. You know,
Yeah.
they'd follow us into these crazy situations also. So it's we definitely got the right team, and we're in the works right now. We're like switching some equipment up. We picked up a 4x40 ATN thermal monocular.
Oh,
So
okay.
it has 40 times zoom, and it films in 1080 and has a mic on it also, and um, really, really nice camera.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but it has because it's a 4x40, it has a small view, right? Whereas Randy's thermal is just it has no zoom whatsoever, so its view is way bigger, right?
Hmm.
So we're getting ready to switch Randy's setup, and we're gonna get him one of these thermals that's 1x16, so it has this this very big range of view, and he's gonna do the same things. He's gonna set it up, except we can use these wireless. Like he has a cable that runs from his to like the DVR and the screen that we watch on, and
Hmm.
these they're all wireless. They'll Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to like an iPad or whatever. So you don't even have to look in them. The viewfinder to see what it's seeing. So. Um, so we use Randy's thermal to like find the hot spots, right? Because it has a wider range of
Right.
view. And then we use mine, the 4x40, like I should have sent you some video of it, like me zooming into some, deer and stuff like that. And like seeing a hot spot across this field, like 600 yards away. And I zoom into it and you can see exactly what it is. It's like,
Wow.
these are really awesome. So it's just a matter now of being able to use those and catch the same old things that we've caught out there. But it's going to be once again time. Like we weren't getting the originally back in the day with these other two juvies. We weren't getting them on thermal in the beginning and like as
Hmm.
often. And it's like the more adapt they became with us, the more we were catching them on thermal, right? And we have caught this one in particular that's leaving the 9.5-inch tracks. I believe we've caught it twice now on thermal. Now we've made this switch up. We have the 4x40. We're going to be getting the 1x16 for Randy soon. And if we catch them on these thermals, like it's going to
It's
be
over.
really, really good footage, especially if they
Mm.
continue. This one continues to come in at the creek and is in
Hmm.
20-25 yards of us. These thermals are going to collect some really,
So,
really, really good film.
so I know you guys have got, one of the pieces of tech that you guys were like so excited to get your hands on and use this season was the drone.
Hmm.
How did that piece of tech actually perform for you guys? Was it as what you expected? Did you get the results that thought you were going to be able to get with it?
Me personally, it's better than I expected. The
Mm.
clarity on that thermal is amazing, especially from altitude, and and it has a zoom on it also. So um, it allows Randy to, versus trying to fly down to a heat signature and have to get closer to
Right.
it. He can
Right.
stay at 500 foot or 700 foot or 300 foot, whatever,
Hmm.
and I think it's got he'll correct me, but I think it's got 4 times zoom on it. Um, or maybe it's a 16x4. I'm not sure, but anyway,
Come on,
the
Randy. We're waiting
clarity,
on you. Randy, come on.
the clarity on it is amazing, and
It's
we've just
crazy.
started using it more because the leaves have fallen off the trees. So like a
Mhm.
couple of
So you're
videos
getting much better view.
yeah. So a couple of the videos that I sent you is him. I'm actually up on the ridge setting up recorders, and he's got the drone above me, above watching me on the thermal, and we're communicating on headsets. And so if a heat signature comes in around me, he can just like straight up tell me, hey, you got a heat signature coming in at 6 o'clock, you know 30 yards, and I'm going to know exactly where they're at. So that's one of the ways that we're putting it to use now, like this new hike that I have going. The next time we're out there, I'm going to be doing this hike at night by myself,
Mm-hmm.
which I ain't going to lie is scary as hell. I mean, it's kind of intense unless you just have that ability to just relax and
Yeah.
do it. But
Yeah.
he's going to be following me with the drone, and at times getting ahead of me with the drone. Um, once I figure out how they're working with me
Yeah, because
on my hike, because they'll create a pattern to my pattern, and
right.
once I get this new pattern figured out of theirs, once they get it going and are
Because it would be interesting to know, like, if they're kind of leapfrogging you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. In the
like
past, that would happen.
there's
That would
one, there's, one 100 yards this way, and this one's keeping parallel with you, and they, you know what I mean? Like, that would
absolutely.
be that would just be so neat, just to kind of that behavior, to catch that behavior.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of the things that we're
I love
trying to
it.
put into place with the drone.
So exciting.
And the thing with the drone is like the goal isn't necessarily to get close to them with the drone, it's to be able to use the
Right.
drone to locate them so that I can get close to them. So if
Exactly.
if one is following me on my hike at night,
Yes.
and he can tell me where it's at, and I can stop, give it the
Mhm.
opportunity to move forward or hold its ground. Randy can tell me what it's
Right.
doing, and then he can also tell me how it's reacting when I go towards it. And
Mhm.
if there's two, if there's one, how they're moving around me, like all that stuff. So that's what we're trying to use the drone for right now, as of late. And of course, like, you can just take that thing and take it up and fly around and scan with it, and like
Yeah.
we're seeing every deer, even small animals.
But you
uh,
see, that's why I think that you guys are very unique in the research that you do, because you're not just out there like trying to get drone thermal footage of a Sasquatch to prove existence. You guys are literally chasing data, and you guys are you're looking at behavior. You want to study them and learn about them and their behaviors, not just, hey guys, I got a thermal of a Sasquatch. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's what sets you guys so far apart from all the other researchers that I'm aware of that are in existence, that are out there actually boots on the ground. That you guys are working on building a relationship with them, building trust with them, getting them used to you, getting them used to the equipment that you're carrying, that you're using. And it's just a planets apart from anything anyone else is doing right now. I don't think anybody else is doing that.
no, I don't keep up with a lot of other people's stuff, honestly,
Hmm.
because I'm
I'm glad
just
you don't.
because
You guys
we've
have
got
your
so
own stuff. It's
well,
awesome.
yeah, and I don't. I like to sometimes, but like, we just stay so busy with what and ate up with what
Hmm.
we're doing, and
Yeah,
and like, other people's data, even knowing other people's data can affect how I think about our data. So
that's true.
we're always conscious of that, or trying to be, and
You're welcome, Randy. It's true. It's
and
true.
another thing that I want to say too is, like, and we may release some of this stuff at some point, but
Hmm.
like, we I don't want it to seem like every time we go out there we get stuff, because, like, we may go out, like this last time, the last trip, like with the crew, right? We
Hmm.
got these those tracks that happened before the crew got there. The tracks that we're going to watch the video of, the ones we released on Facebook.
Hmm.
Um, so there was a lot of things that happened while they were there, but the chatter happened while they were there, and they got to experience a few things, knocks, and they got to hear, like, Blair, the camera lady, woke up the very last night, and in the middle of the night, and thought that she heard the chatter. And so they all got to have kind of their own
Yeah.
experiences, but we don't get stuff all the time. Like, Randy had several 10-day stretches, and we get the knocks and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
we have
But
so much of
you're
that stuff that we don't pay a lot of attention to that anymore.
Right.
I mean, we
Right.
do, but we don't.
Yeah, I
And
mean, you do, it's there. You're, you're just not focused on every single track or every single impression or every single knock or because those things, like I said, you guys aren't there to prove existence. You guys are there building a relationship, and that is the difference. It's not about, I don't know how to explain it. Like I get so excited when I hear these things that you guys are capturing and thinking about and changing and twisting it up and turning it this way and that way and a different way of doing it. It's like it's a fresh approach, and you guys are thinking out of the box. Not a lot of people are doing that. They're just not, Shane. They're not.
Randy, Randy may get mad at me for telling you this, but another thing we're doing that we're setting up for the new camp is a large tree next to camp, and this is something that Randy's been wanting to do for quite some time, and I think we're going to try it. We may have found the right camera for it, but basically, it has to be done on a large tree. We're going to chisel and pull off the bark just a little bigger than the camera, and
Hmm.
it's not a big camera. And then we are going to remove the inside of that tree and create a hole, and then that bark is going to go back on over that, and there will be a hole like this big, and that's it. And the camera lens will be peering through that, and the sensor, the trigger for it is actually external, so
Hmm.
we can put that little sensor anywhere, and it'll set the camera off. It's
Wow.
not set up for nighttime because we don't want to use infrared or anything like that.
Right.
This is just strictly for daytime. But like I'm in the process of baiting them early mornings to come through this camp area, So uh, with any luck, maybe that'll work, But it'll literally look exactly the same when we're done, except for this little hole, nothing
Wow.
exposed. And
We're gonna
I
take
think that,
one. We're gonna take one quick question, and then We're gonna start looking at some of the stuff that you sent me. Oh, wrong one. Sorry.
but yes, that's true. Dark Woods.
Sorry, Dark Woods. I hit the wrong one. One second. I saw this one because it was in cap. Shane, do
Whistle
you do
words.
something, a whistle or words or something that they can respond like what?
Yes, I have a whistle that I've used out there this whole time from day one, and they do respond
Mm-hmm.
using my whistle to me. Not so much now. I've heard my whistle a couple times, but like before, the other two juvies would like respond to me at, like as I was crossing the creek. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if they would be off to like the south of me on the ridge, and they would they would
So
whistle
they
at
would
me.
mimic your whistle.
Yes, they were mimicking my whistle back at me. And
Yeah.
there's another term that I use, and actually, a couple of the researchers that I know of have captured it now. One of them I just found out. He let me know last night that he's captured it now, and it's ahu, like
Uh-huh. Yes.
AHOO, ahu.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I so I found two different Native American languages where that was a word. One of them was friend, and one of them was hello. So um, that's all I could find on it. So I go with the thought that
Yeah.
when this is being said, or we've captured that it's a good thing, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I do use that term at times, depending on the situation. I have a video on YouTube actually, and on my channel, and I have at the end of the video, I've got you know softball sized rocks being thrown around me, and in that video, you'll see me like saying that word out loud, and I'm sure a lot of people have watched that and they're like, "What the hell is that guy
What is
saying?
that?
What language is that? Crazy!" But that's what that's all about. I've captured that like four times on video or audio now at this
So I
point.
mean, yeah, so it means something, it means something. If there I mean, if it's being repeated and you're hearing it at different, different times and you're catching it, that's
Right.
there's meaning behind it. It's language, obviously, some
Yeah.
sort of language. So that's exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. And
What?
real quick before we get into this stuff,
Okay.
I just want to say, because you mentioned language,
Hmm.
our throats are set up at a 90-degree angle, and they have a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning the oral cavity to the back of the throat, that distance from the back of the throat down to our vocal box is the same. There's a 1-to-1 ratio, and it's basically at 90 degrees. And part of that's because we walk upright. Apes, theirs is slanted like this, and all their vocal mechanisms are at the back of the oral cavity.
Hmm.
So they don't have that 1-to-1 ratio. It's a 1-to-2 ratio, I believe. Um, Everything that has speech, that has the ability to use speech, has that we know of, has a 1-to-1 ratio. Um, and the only thing that has a 1-to-1 ratio is humans. So if these things are using speech and have a language, that would mean that they have a 1-to-1 ratio, most likely, and that they are a human primate versus a non-human primate. I will touch real quick on this before we get going that the tracks that we have are showing arches, possibly 3 arches, inside lateral, a mid, and then a possible outside lateral also. A lot of the pictures that you see of the adult tracks that have been confirmed by people,
Hmm.
um, they'll have an hourglass shape, and the only thing that creates that hourglass shape is
The presence of an arch.
you guessed it, right?
Yeah.
So um,
I worked for a podiatrist for a lot of years.
so you kind of understand where I'm going with that.
A little bit.
All primates, all non-human apes or non-human primates,
Hmm.
they have mid-tarsal breaks. Um, Human primates have arches, and we're the only ones that have arches. So if my tracks are correct in what they're showing, and they do show what uh, could be said to be a mid-tarsal break at times, but they're definitely showing arches. And if what I have here is the real thing, and these things have arches, that also makes them a human primate. So one of the things I'm going to be hitting in the
Awesome.
future throughout this process is like the data that we're getting is showing that these things are a human primate versus a
Yeah.
non-human primate. And it's just like that's what our data says. So I have to go that route. And I want to make note that these things having arches that show more so in the juvenile tracks um, makes it harder for us to prove that we have Sasquatch tracks. When it comes to the juvenile
Right.
tracks,
Yeah.
and people tend not to look at the juvie tracks as much. Like who out there is saying and confirming juvie tracks? Not.
I mean, we do have a couple of researchers here in Florida that have very small. I think the smallest I've seen, I
Oh,
think
there's
this.
lots of them out there, but what I'm saying is,
Okay.
where's the confirmation on those? Like, it's hard to
Yeah.
get
No, you're
any
right. I
academics
mean,
to look at juvie tracks,
yeah.
and I think it's because these juvie tracks are showing arches, and arches mean that
Hmm.
they're a human primate versus a non-human primate.
So maybe
So
there's a lot more out there that people are not casting or not even looking at twice because they go, "Oh, it has an arch, so it must have been some
yeah,
human baby around."
yeah. But I will say, there's other factors within these tracks that show differences from the normal human track,
Mhm.
especially the arches themselves, how they're showing in the tracks. But like these newest tracks that we got, some of these tracks you can see the toenails in them, and
Wow.
I'll say the toenails are a little gnarly. Or if this were a human track and they had toenails like that, they need to take a good look at themselves.
They need a
And
pedicure.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my
and,
gosh.
and your average toenail clippers ain't going to clip these nails.
Oh my gosh.
So they're definitely not foot fetish feet.
They're
Say
not
that.
gonna be they're not setting up an OnlyFans account just for feet, right?
Yeah, surely not. Surely
Okay.
not. They're fairly gnarly. But
Yeah. But you see, it's those kind of details though that, not a lot of us get to see or hear or know about, because a lot of people, a lot of researchers aren't really getting consistent tracks like you guys are getting consistent tracks there on the 400. So it's a little, your research area is so different, it's such an anomaly. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, we total. We got so lucky, getting into
Yeah.
this place, and it's
Yeah.
I don't even I've said it so many times that like how lucky we've been to be able to be on the 400, and at one point we wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get back onto the property, so
Hmm.
we kind of kept that to ourselves. Uh, we
It's
were kind of in the dark for a minute, but all is well now, and we've
that's
got
so
the
great.
blessing moving forward, and like the film crew right now, we've discussed them being with us till late next year at this
Oh,
point.
wow. Okay.
And if we're
That's
able to
exciting.
continue moving forward after that, they want to be a part of that, and like they want to see how far they're willing to hang out with us and see
Hmm.
how far we can take this, and even help. Like we've got some funding, to push some of these things that will allow us to collect better data and more data and get more people involved that are smarter than us. And so that's going to be a huge help, but on the other side too, we're
Hmm.
not trying to spend $1 million doing this. We're trying
Hmm.
to be frugal and spend the least amount of money possible. And
Hmm.
because in the long run, nothing, this could never see the light of day, or it could, you know, be on
I
TV at
mean,
some point.
and are you concerned about anybody recognizing where the 400 is and doing this docu-series? Are you concerned about that? I mean, and the reason I ask is because I know that it just seems to me like I've just kind of like, I'm in the Bigfoot community, but I'm kind of on the peripheral here. I'm not like I'm nobody important or nothing, but I just, you hear through the grapevine little things about people trying to figure out this or figure out a location or figure out certain things. And does that concern you? Because I mean, this group is obviously, they're trusting you. You're building that relationship. This is gonna, could be a very long-term thing. Are you concerned about that?
No, no, I'm not,
No.
because throughout, even when I first started on this property, there were other people on the property at times,
Hmm.
and nobody was having sightings.
Okay.
There was the person that took me out originally, Mark. He was the only person that was like going out and looking for him on the property because of the things that were happening.
Okay.
And so he's the one that first really understood what was happening out there and brought me in, because of
Hmm.
it. But uh, until we came into the process, nobody knew. Nobody had realized
Right.
it really. And Mark had the inclination that it was happening, and that's why he brought me into the picture. But
Hmm.
uh, I don't think I don't think that you can just go out there and that they're going to come mess with you or come in
Right.
uh, and make themselves vulnerable. There's people that know where it is, that have been there. I've brought other researchers in
Hmm.
there before,
Hmm.
and I was told at one point that one particular researcher was thinking about trying to backdoor the 400, and was actually trying to put together a team to help him do it. And
Wow.
like
S- So
I'll
that's
if that was to happen,
so
I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it as I may when it happens.
yeah.
But I don't really worry
Okay.
about it. Nobody's going to go in there like
Yeah, I
me
didn't
and
I
Randy.
didn't know that.
Me and Randy could leave
That's
that
terrible.
property and somebody else could come in, and it's not
Yeah.
just going to pick up where it left off. Like
No, no,
they are
no,
they are doing what they're doing with us
because of you
because of the time
guys.
we've had out there, and
That's right. That's right.
the
Hmm.
they know we're stable people and we're not going to do nothing stupid. We're very
Hmm.
predictable.
Hmm.
Like it's you can't just go in and start this, and it starts from the beginning. I don't
Right.
think It's been my
Okay.
experience. It doesn't work that way. You have to locate them, and then you have to make yourself readily available as often as possible. You have to do things that make you predictable, and
Yes,
they'll
it's that
eventually,
predictability that
yeah,
helps. You're right.
yeah, and they'll eventually start warming up to you and testing you by throwing rocks, uh, making noises, doing things to judge your reaction. And so
Mhm.
there's a process that you have to, or I feel like there's a process that you have to go through to get these things to interact with you. And like I said earlier, we've had to take a couple steps back because we're dealing with two different juvies,
Mhm.
and not all the way back, but we've had to take a couple steps back, and we're working back through
Mhm.
some of that process to make sure that we get back to where we were with the other two juveniles.
Right,
So,
right.
so I don't really worry about it, other than like if you go into somebody else's research area uh, without their permission and you're trying to backdoor it or something, you're just a dick. I mean, it's that simple.
They're out there.
Sorry for the language, but
So no, it's okay.
there's
It's true.
to me, I'm not. I
They
judge
are out
people.
there. I didn't
I,
know that that had ever happened to you previously, though. I didn't know that. But, they're out there. These
yeah,
people
yeah, for sure.
exist. These people that want to hijack all of your hard work. And but at least I'm thankful that, you guys, and trust me, I don't think you and Randy are out there without being, you know, very
No,
careful
yeah,
and
yeah. Like
very
you got to remember
protected.
too. You got to remember too that I'm going through these areas. Like there's days when me and Randy are out there, and Randy will spend 3 or 4 hours straight going through audio,
Mhm.
and for that 3 or 4 hours, I'll be out tracking. So like if people are coming through there, um,
You're gonna know about it.
I'll know. I'll know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll find it and recognize it at some
Yeah.
point. So I
Yeah.
don't really worry about it. I'll see sign of it if people are coming in, and
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into some of this evidence that you sent me so we can share.
All right.
What do you want to start with first?
Um, that Trackway video, if you want, I believe
All
it's.
right.
We'll just go through some of it and play it, and then I'll
Okey-doke.
talk about it.
All right. Let me grab that.
That's probably the very first one I sent you.
Now you think I'm gonna remember all that. Oh no. Let's see which one it was. Is that the first one or the second one?
You just play whatever you want to play, and we'll talk about it, and we'll just buzz through them.
Okay. All right, we will do that then.
Cool. That'll make it easy for us. And
All right. Let's see here. I think I have to go. All right, hold on, Shane. Hold on,
you're
hold on,
good.
hold on. I okay, so do I go to share? No, I go to video file, right? And then I choose it and then I share it, right? You have a Mac, right?
No,
No.
it's like saying I have an iPhone.
Don't get me started, Mr. Samsung guy.
Am I on a Mac? What kind of question is that?
All right,
Okay.
there's one.
Yeah. So I'll just
I
let
came
this.
down through here earlier and that was not there. I've been taking the same way down. See, up there's the ridge. What the?
They're
What
like,
the hell? That was not there earlier.
oh, that's fresh.
And that's freaking green.
Mm.
I'll have to come up and look at that tomorrow. Crazy.
So at night,
See this trail
I would be
coming
going
down
up.
Second tunnel.
I'll let this finish.
That was a trip.
This is our little side-by-side trail that we've worn over the years we've been out there. You can see camp right up to the right there. But so I'd been going up and down that for several days at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'd wait till nighttime and we would take these. I would go up by myself and take these log recorders up, and like I've got this on video over and over and over. You know, like several nights in a row doing this. I think it was 4 nights in a row through that little stretch. But like I walk right by that spot every single time, and that was like three or 4 days into it. I think it was 3 days in. Coming back down, I noticed that, and I hadn't noticed it going up, but
And it's
going
so,
going up, you know, I'm like I'm looking down more
yeah,
versus up, you know, because I'm looking at my
right.
students. And so when I'm coming down, you know, it was right there in front of me, and I was like, that wasn't there before, and it was just a random thing, you know, no
And
big
it's all,
deal.
and
But
you're, and
lots of stuff like that happens that we don't show. So I'm trying to show a
yeah.
lot of these other things, you know, tonight.
But I like that, you're like, wait a minute, what the heck? It's all, because it's almost like, okay, is it everybody has those questions, right? Like, oh, is it because it's a direction, or is it a message of some sort? Or maybe they just said, hey, let's see if he notices this, and let's
I
watch
think
and
I
see how long it takes him to notice it,
I think that's what it's about.
Yeah.
They do little things like that. Like if I was to walk right by that again, they're gonna be like, okay. I mean, it's gonna give them a kind of a judgment on what they can get by with
Mm-hmm.
versus what they can't. Like
Yep.
sure they've already figured out that Randy's OCD, and if you move anything in camp, he's gonna notice it, right? Like the others figured that out about him, I'm sure. And so
Oh,
I
it's
think,
the guy that lines everything up on the table, and if we
yeah,
move
yeah.
something a quarter of an inch, he's gonna know.
Absolutely, but like for this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
that's a great problem to
It
have. You know what I mean?
is.
Like
That's not that
we've
yeah,
discovered things because of Randy's OCD, you know?
it's awesome. Randy, I love you. I love your OCD. All right. Let's see. Next. Let's see this one.
So easy shot to the trail from standing right there is a pretty clear shot on the other side, on the right side of that tree right there. So we have a rock here, oddly enough a feather too, a twist right there, and let's do a little knock maybe.
So, um, after that, recently when we went back out, there was just to the left here, there was a new hole dug, and it just
Mm-hmm.
rained. It just rained, I think, within like 32 hours or something. But the 6-inch tracks that we're finding now, I found those tracks were 15 feet away from that spot, just behind that to my back and to my right.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll look at a couple of those tracks later. But this area right here, we discovered this is an area that I don't really like get into and look around too much.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's like it's a little too far away from camp to like see camp, so it hasn't been one of these places where I've like consistently looked through. Right, so we had a little ordeal that happened, and we were on the trail, and it caused us to have to look at this area, and I'm looking at this area from the trail, and I'm like, I see this spot where something has went through and accessed into this little thick area back here. So I'd driven by it, you know, many times and just hadn't looked over and noticed this, you know. And so the situation that caused us was like a good thing, you know. It wasn't really a bad situation, but it's a long story. It's its own story for another time. But so I went up in there and I could see where things had been going through and moving through and stuff. So we found 10.5-inch tracks, 14-inch tracks, and then the 6-inch tracks back there. And that rock was sitting on that log there. And actually, one of the audio clips that you have may be that actual rock hitting that log that we captured from camp. Um,
Wow.
it came from that direction. Randy had actually heard it. Randy can correct me, but I believe it was the night before we found this stuff that we captured one of these knocks that I sent you. So
Okay.
just an interesting little cool spot. We went back out this last time, and the rock was not on the log. It was off to the back side of it, and it was in a little hole, like a little open hole, and then there was a hole that had been dug on this side and to the left that had the dirty stick in it from being dug with the stick. So just a little interesting thing,
Yeah.
I find rocks in trees and on logs out there.
And do you find, okay, so the white feather was on the ground.
Yeah, that was I just pointed that out. It was just
Do you find a lot of those?
sometimes.
Are they usually white?
No.
No? You see
No.
different kinds. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've felt like I've been left like turkey feathers and sparrow feathers, and
I keep getting I keep getting white feathers.
interesting.
And
I saw your face when the camera pointed at the feather. I saw you go, oh.
I was like, oh,
Like, yeah,
white
she's
feather.
got many feathers.
White feathers. Remind me after the show backstage, and maybe Randy will come on backstage. I'll show you this other little present that they left me at work. I don't show it on YouTube
We'll
because
see.
it's too graphic.
He's in the middle of some stuff tonight too, which is so.
Well, I can send it to you guys. Well, I have sent Randy friend request. I think Randy's afraid of me at this point. I think he's scared. Okay, because I've sent him friend requests. He won't accept my friend request, and he will not come on my show.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
So we have to get that figured out. But I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you, and you can share it with them. The picture. It's pretty interesting. It's weird. Cool. All right. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. Let's see.
I don't know if you can hear it or not. You can see it right there. There's the drone. Randy's actually following me with the thermal. So as I go down this ridge line, he can see everything around me. We're communicating on headsets right now, which allows him to tell me if he sees any heat signatures around me.
That log is a recorder.
Good stuff. OMS.
Okay. Now is that the same kind you were using last season? That got picked up and moved around, and you guys caught that audio?
Yep, same thing. Yep, one of those same style recorders.
Okay. I think there was
absolutely.
I think there was whoops.
Yeah, there's another nighttime one on the ridge there with that one, I think.
Yeah, there's one more.
All right, once again, up on the ridge, came across this down tree with a rock up on it, a large rock. Thought that was interesting, so I'm going to leave the recorder right next to it, shooting up this direction into no man's land, looking for that samurai chatter. Hook us up, hook us up.
So that's the recorder that actually captured some audio that we'll listen to eventually.
Okay.
The audio is crazy. We don't know what it is. No idea. But I believe it was 3:30 in the morning, or maybe even 4:30 when it happened. I think it was like 3:30. But anyway, I just wanted to show the little video of that recorder because that is the actual recorder. Both of those recorders actually picked up the audio, but whatever it was that created that audio was close to the second recorder that we looked at.
I want to see if...
Have you got that video of the Trackway?
That's what I'm trying to see here. I've only got... Wait, I don't think this is a... This is the last video I have.
Just found an amazing trackway.
Yeah,
it is over 50 tracks and then into the water.
I paused it.
Oh, I was just saying I'm going to disappear just for a second while you watch
Oh,
this.
okay.
So here's a track. Here's a track. You can see the toes. This is where it starts. I've got to make this quick because Randy went to get the hydrocal. It's fixing to get dark. Look at that puppy.
Wow.
Hold on, they get better. They only get better. Looky there, toes.
Oh,
Toes. Toes. Look at that high hump in the middle.
look at that.
Look at that. Toes. Toes. Look, and they just keep going. Look at that big dip in the middle of it. This is something we find in the juvie tracks. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Look at that. There's a nice one.
Shane, that's unbelievable. Can I play that one more time?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sure you guys are going to want to see this. So I'm playing it one more time.
Just found an amazing trackway. It is over 50 tracks.
It's actually over
into
100
the water.
tracks.
So
Can you pause it right there where I'm pointing back?
here's
Can pull it back a little bit.
So right there. Okay, so where I'm at, I started counting from there and counted 54 tracks to the water, going the opposite way that I'm pointing. On this,
The water's behind you, right?
yeah. So this is kind of running parallel with the water, and the tracks kind of curved and went into the water. And then they actually went back down the water. On the very top left of the screen, you can see a little bit of water right there.
Oh, right here.
Before you get to the corner. It went back down through the water and exited down there. And there were 4 tracks down there and just a little bitty mud spot before the gravel. But this area that I'm pointing at right here, there are tracks that start all the way back at that gravel barge back there. And they go all the way out here. So I'm not even when I said over 50 tracks, I wasn't counting the ones that are from this point backward. I hadn't even discovered those yet. I walked out and came into the middle of the trackway.
Wow.
So I'd look back and I could see tracks, but they weren't as deep and weren't as well defined and whatnot because the substrate was different. The mud got thinner, the viscosity got thinner as I went out. So in actuality, there was over 100 tracks, and these were just the deeper ones, the deeper, better ones. So
it was just one individual, though.
yes.
They were all the same individual.
Yep. One trackway.
So do you think this particular individual was the female or the juvie?
The juvie. These tracks were 9.5 inches.
Okay.
Depending on the track, like the substrate, affects the actual measurement that you get out of the tracks.
Right.
So, it's 9 to 9.5.
And then what was the distance in between each track, the stride? What was that?
29 inches.
Okay.
Which that's not for that size foot, even that's not out of the human range. The human adult range is on average, I think, is 30 inches. But you'll see that as you get out into this mud, like you have to remember too, that when you're walking through this mud and as it gets deeper and the viscosity thins up, it's harder to pull your foot out, and you gotta push to get to that next step a little more and stuff. So your step actually typically in mud like this will shrink somewhat, because of the mud.
I don't know. Something just came to my mind. I was going to ask you. Okay, so you know how they always people talk about that they have like an oily substance, like that they have on their hands or things like that. Do you guys tend to find any of that in their tracks? I mean, does it have some sort of an oily residue in any of them, or
I mean,
do you not see that?
Not that I can tell, because I'm getting all these tracks in mud, right?
Right.
Like what we're looking at right here that has all this grass on it. Like a month prior to that, or a month and a half prior to that, there was no grass on that. That was all mud, right? So typically where I'm getting these tracks is somewhat moist anyway.
Okay.
So I'm
So
not
you
I'm not
wouldn't
I'm not necessarily going to see
anything like that.
any oily substances like that. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Unless it
All
was
right.
So
puddled or something.
here's the track. Here's the track. You can see the toes. This is where it starts. I've got to make this quick because Randy went to get the hydrocal. It's fixing to get dark. Look at that puppy. Hold on, they get better. They only get better. Looky there, toes. 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 Look at that high hump in the middle. Look at that. Toes. Toes. Look, and they just keep going. Look at that big dip in the middle of it. This is something we find in the juvie tracks. Look at that.
So cool.
Look at that. There's a nice one.
I know I don't sound like overly excited, but like
You're excited. I can tell.
yeah,
You're-
that's me really excited. It was
Yeah.
I hadn't, we hadn't been out there, and we were gone from that property for a while, and to get back out, and like I've just been waiting for a trackway, and waiting and waiting. And the cool thing about this trackway is if you notice, there's a crack in the mud around them,
Mhm.
right? Which means that those tracks. So it had rained. That was on a Sunday. Randy came in on a Thursday. I showed up Friday. It rained. It quit raining, I believe, like midnight, Thursday night or Wednesday night going into Thursday morning. So those tracks had been left after that rain, and so that mud had to be out in the sun for at least a day after that rain for that crack to happen around those tracks. Does that make sense? If those tracks would have been there and it would have rained, at 1:00 in the morning, Thursday morning, that crack would not be so defined, and there would be wash into that crack. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So those tracks were left while we were there. They had been left sometime between the time Randy got there, which was Thursday, I believe, Thursday morning or Thursday noonish, and Sunday when I found them. So interesting.
Dark Woods has this question, and I thought just give you an opportunity to kind of like maybe go circle back a little bit what you said
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Okay,
that hump in the middle of the foot due to a mid-tarsal break?
Yes, it's possible. I'll just say it's possible. Right now, what we're dealing with is, just going over and studying feet and how the feet are built. And now I've had the opportunity to really have some hours of discussion with a biologist named John Morley. He was good friends with Grover Krantz, and they have said for years that these things aren't showing a mid-tarsal break, that they are showing arches, multiple arches. Arches would mean that these things are a human primate versus a non-human primate. So when people say that they have a mid-tarsal break, I can't say they don't have a mid-tarsal break. What I can tell you is that according to our tracks, these things have at least 2 arches, possibly 3. And that is something you only see in humans. You don't see that in apes. Apes have a mid-tarsal break. So if we were looking at a mid-tarsal break, what we would see is you have to understand that the mid-tarsal break would be if you drew a line straight down from the front of your shin bone, the mid-tarsal break would be just a little in front of that, right? People assume that the mid-tarsal break would be in the middle of the foot, right? Well, that's not what the pushback shows, right? We're seeing the pushback from multiple positions. If there was a mid-tarsal break, you would only see the pushback from the mid-tarsal break back, right? And if you notice that pushback, and especially that very last one, that mud was pushed all the way back into the heel, right? Given almost that vertical spot in the heel, in like the front of the heel, making it look vertical when it actually wasn't when it was laid, but the mud pushed back and got pushed back into that position. But that especially that last track, the pushback is coming all the way from the ball of the foot. It's not coming from a mid-tarsal break. I have tracks that show a possible mid-tarsal break in the correct area that it should be, but that's not to say that these things don't have, you know, some flex in that mid-tarsal break. Mid-tarsal joint would be yes, that would be the proper term, actually. And you know, another thing that shows arches is like the hourglass shape. The hourglass shape that you see in a lot of adult tracks, even, right? What I'm seeing, I have adult tracks and juvenile tracks, and this is just what I'm seeing, and
in your data,
in our data, and
right.
what John Morley is seeing within our data is that I don't even want to use John Morley's name in my theory and hypothesis, but I think, just from what I'm seeing, that these things do have multiple arches, and they may have a mid-tarsal joint also that is flexing and moving at times. That shows in people, you know, like 6% of the population, I think, you know, has somewhat of a mid-tarsal joint that'll show. But you have to consider the fact that what we're seeing, and it would be the same in humans, if you never put on shoes a day in your life, you're going to be born, and you're gonna have these arches that show. Like I have my oldest son's baby prints on my arm, tattooed on my arm, and you know, when you look at baby prints, you can see the arch, right? It comes out in the print itself. But if you never wore shoes, by the time you were 25 years old, you're going to have flat feet, because your weight dispersion is going to start to flatten your feet out, you know, because you don't have shoes that have arches in them, keeping those arches in place, basically, kind of. Your toes are going to become more flexible and spread, right? Be able to spread and close up, and you're going to eventually, you would think you're going to get more movement out of them, you know, just because they're not in shoes. And they're going to flatten out. So think about a Sasquatch, a juvenile, say a young male, it hits puberty and it starts getting its muscle mass, and it really starts growing into an adult, right? And that weight, that change in weight, just that alone is going to flatten out their feet, right? We also don't know if they have pads on their feet, right? If they have pads on their feet, that's going to affect things too, because that pad is going to get thicker, and it's going to get probably a tougher hide on the outside of it as it grows and gets heavier. So it's a natural thing to me that these things do have arches, and you just see less of that as they get older, because their feet are flattening out, because they don't wear shoes like that, you know? Like, shoes really mess our feet up. They really do. You know, I'm somewhat flat-footed. I've been in martial arts my whole life. So I had arches when I was young, and I have fairly flat feet now. And I just want to note, because I just said I have fairly flat feet, these are not my tracks. While the camera crew was out with us, we purposely put me out in the mud flats, and I did a trackway. We tested some theories with, you know, walking in mud and trying to create these tracks.
Right.
And we did quite a few things. But anyway, I just want to say that.
It's crazy you have to do that, right? You're like, hold up.
Yeah.
Disclaimer,
Somebody,
just saying, everybody.
It'll be on Reddit. Shane
Yeah,
Carpenter,
right.
in a recent interview, says he has flat feet. Could these be his tracks?
Yeah, right. Okay, so I think that was the last. Let me double check. I think that was the last video. I think the rest are all photos.
Cool. The knocks and stuff, those are videos.
Oh, those are videos? Okay.
Yeah, but they're short and quick, 5-10 seconds.
Okay.
And you don't even have to play those, I just we never do. So I thought, just so people know, we do capture this. We just have so many, it's ridiculous.
Sounds like a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Home run derby going on in the 400.
Right. And these were all captured in one night. I think I sent you 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. That was one. Here comes number 2.
Kind of breathy.
And one more.
That was a nice knock.
Yes, sir.
See, that was fairly close to the microphone, and it wasn't done loud. You know what I mean? That's more of when I hear that, I think of more of a mouth pop or something.
That was a nice knock.
Yes, sir.
Because it definitely sounds different than the other 2.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I had sent you a video also some audio. That was just audio that I sent.
Yeah.
The 3-minute long. Yeah. And when we listen to that, we won't listen to the whole thing because it's the same thing over and over. It's
kind of loose.
I'll set it up. So those nighttime videos, that second one was the actual, we caught it that night on that recorder. Okay. This is also where the possible quote unquote samurai chatter happened. So when you hear this, I'll make a point to note also that the other recorder that was 500 yards away also picked it up, but you don't, it's closer to this microphone or this recorder. And I'll just say this. So these last 2 recorders, say they're running east and west, right? The one that captured this is 500 yards further to the west. So due to the other recorder picking it up too, we know that whatever is making this sound either went southwest or west, right? Because we have it on 2 recorders. So we know what direction kind of that it went, but whatever it is fairly close to the recorder when it starts. And for 3 minutes, this goes on and on and on. And of course it gets quieter as it goes. You can tell that it's moving away from the recorder slowly. So we don't have to listen to the whole 3 minutes of it, but maybe listen to the first minute of it and let everybody go, what the hell is that?
Okay. And this is it's an audio file, this one though, right?
Yes.
It's an audio file. Okay. Because I think I have to share screen on that. Hold on. All right. And I think I have that one on my desktop. Let's see. Okay.
Yes. Earthing is awesome, Reed Raider, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Can you hear it?
No.
Can you guys hear it? No? All right, hold on. Wait. I wonder if I have to pull it out here. Okay, let me see.
Just reading through some of the comments here, and
give me a minute, guys.
Yeah, you're good.
trying to figure out.
While you're doing that, here, I'll just do this. I'll grab a track.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Shane.
I'm not supposed to be showing these, but
it's because you love me and Randy dits me.
So I'll show two real quick.
I'm only teasing Randy. I love you.
So
I think I have to.
Here
Yeah.
is one of those tracks.
Out of that trackway from that we saw in the video.
Yeah, this is out of the one from the video.
That's so amazing.
And that's one that was in the stiffer substrate. And then here, let us show this one. This one. So there's that hump that you see in the tracks. And you can see in this track in particular, that pushback starts all the way up at the ball of the foot and pushes all the way back into that heel. And this is what we're saying, like right here, there is a line right here where you could say, okay, that's a mid-tarsal joint right there that's showing through. And that's very possible. They could have a mixture of the two, right? But if you look at that, see that hourglass shape? There is still, we're still seeing right here some arch.
On the side, yeah.
Yep. So we're seeing, you know, the normal arch here, a possible mid-arch here. And then there's also possible in some of these tracks, we're seeing a possible on the outside too, which would arch, and then arch.
Right.
Which would, you know, still make their feet somewhat different. And then if they have a little more flexibility in this mid-tarsal joint than we do, you know, that's very probable it could show up in some of these tracks also, right? So I'm not saying they don't have a mid-tarsal joint. I'm saying that we're seeing arches in our tracks and maybe possibly some mid-tarsal joint pressure and push possibly too. So regardless, the whole idea of the arch is what could be counterintuitive to some people, because some people, you know, they say that they are apes or non-human apes, and you know, to me, this is there's things showing that they are human apes. So
yeah. Now, Robbie Rains here has a question for you. Now, Robbie Rains, I will tell you, is an expert tracker. Actually, he's going to be on my show in a few weeks, and we're going to talk about tracking.
Awesome.
So he knows a lot about tracks. So his question is, were there any dermal ridges?
Absolutely. These some of these tracks came out really, really good, and they show a lot of detail. And those are the things, because like me coming out and saying that these things have arches also makes it more difficult for us to prove that these juvenile tracks are Sasquatch juvenile tracks, right? So it's almost like a catch-22 for me. It makes my job harder, but it is what it is. I have to say what the data says, not what I want it to say.
Right.
So I'm actually making my job harder, but it just is what it is. But there are things within these tracks that show things that are not human also. Yes. We do have hair in one of the tracks, actually, and I sent you pictures, some of those pictures, actually.
Nice picture there, Randy. I love teasing him. I can't help it. He makes my life easy. All right, so let's see if I can get this to come up now. Okay. So I think if I do share window and I go here, hold on. Now can you hear it?
No.
What am I doing wrong?
You have a Mac?
I do. You're going to make fun of me now, huh? You know, I don't know
They
why.
didn't get to hear our discussion before we came on live, so
I know, right?
What are they talking about?
He's a Samsung guy. I'm an Apple girl, but this is my first Mac computer, so I'm kind of like, Really, you were in Paul Freeman's areas?
Randy's done a lot of
Snap.
Randy's done a lot of cool stuff.
Randy, how
Here,
did you do that? Because from what I'm understanding, that area is a watershed and nobody's supposed to be in there. Did you sneak in there? Don't tell
here we
me.
go. Here, see if you can hear this. I have it on my phone. If you could hear the chatter I played you earlier, you'll be able to hear this. Oh, hold on. So 3 minutes of this, you can hear it starting to get quieter, right? Slowly,
So
but
it's just doing like this, like almost like a huff or a bark or like
no,
a.
no, I think that's probably because I'm playing it through my phone over the internet into
Mhm.
your feed, so it's sounding a little different. You're losing some of the frequencies, but the only thing that my brain can fathom when I'm hearing that sound is like two pieces of like oak or cedar, like 1x6s, and you have one on each hand and you're smacking them together, right? Um, now it's funny the dark woods that you say that, because when me and Randy first listened to this, the first one that I heard, that first, that's the first thing my brain went, is that a buck snort? But then as it happened again, I immediately went, no, that's not a buck snort. Like, typically bucks, when they snort, they'll stop and they'll put their head down,
Mhm.
right? And then maybe the head will go up and then they'll do the snort or the huff or the, whatever you want to call it. But whatever's doing that is doing it while it's moving. There's several times that you hear it like
Yeah.
it's the same sound, but the intensity isn't the same. Like it's not being done as hard or something. I don't know what it is. But I haven't even told Randy this because I just discovered this today. Still going through this audio, fine tuning it. And I wouldn't have noticed this if I wouldn't have been looking at the frequency patterns. But now that I saw it, I'm going back and I can hear it. But we may have caught some chatter just before that. Like literally just moments before that, there's like a 2-minute space in between that, or just before that,
Wow.
where there's some stuff going on, but it's like it's further away. So it's
Mhm.
almost like you're hearing that and then it stops, and then you can hear some movement kind of coming towards the recorder, and then everything stops again, and then you start hearing that over and over and over.
Yeah, Dark Woods they have a lot of activity going on their property. They've got Sasquatch and they've got some Dogman stuff going on too.
That's
And
interesting right there. Like we haven't, Randy, we put that on his Facebook page, just to see if anybody recognized it or maybe had an idea what it could be. Because like we can't say what it is unless I pick out some things around it in the recording that could point to what it could be, But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. It's just going to be one of those unknowns until we see that sound being made by something,
That's right, right. Okay, so
But
question
that was recorded where the samurai chatter, or the
was,
supposed samurai chatter, the possible samurai
yeah.
chatter that we got was. So it was right up in that area too.
Do you guys ever hear metal, like something hitting metal, something dragging metal, any popping of
And
metal, any metallic sounds, anything
it's
like that?
crazy that you're asking me that because I just watched a video within the past few days where, oh, your son actually, I believe, didn't he think that one knocked on a pan or something that was hanging?
Is it him? It might have been Matt. Maybe.
Anyway, recently there's somebody had posted some audio,
Hmm.
and as soon as I heard it, I was like, "Holy cow!" And Randy can vouch for this. He wasn't there when it happened, but I told him about it. It was one of the days when I went down to hike on my own, and I've actually searched the area like with a fine tooth comb. Last time we were out there, I was searching again to figure out what made this sound, but it sounded like somebody took the bottom of a big pot and took like a wooden spoon on its edge like used the edge of the wooden spoon and hit the bottom of the pot like a thong.
Right.
And I was sitting down at camp by myself in the middle of the day and
Huh.
that happened. And it sounded like it was like maybe 30, 40 yards from me. And the direction that it came from, I've searched and searched and have found nothing, absolutely nothing. So I don't know. Yeah, I've heard
But that's the
that.
only
Mm,
time, or you've
I've
heard it.
I've heard some metal sounds like that before. It's just been a long time.
Mhm.
It's been maybe
Interesting.
3 times. I mean, it's been real random.
Yeah. It's just interesting to hear different people's encounters and different things that they hear, and then you get to ask, researchers like yourself, like if you guys do hear them in your areas, and it's just interesting that so many of these things, even though maybe it doesn't happen to you in your area all the time, but they still kind of go together. They all kind of have a lot of the same characteristics, a lot of the same
Yeah,
kind of
and and,
traits, and
and speaking of that, if
it's
Dark
interesting.
Woods, if you reach out to me on Facebook, Shane Carpenter, I'd
Mhm.
love to hear if you have, if you captured that on
Yes.
audio, I would love to hear it to kind of be able to audibly compare it.
Mhm. He's
It's
got some
interesting.
very interesting, um, very interesting stuff. So I think you were, I think, in the chat, Shane, when I had Jeremiah Fountain on.
Yeah.
And were you in the chat when he was talking about that the Sasquatch, the female that he saw, that she had kind of like a clear, like a membrane of some sort on
What a
her on her
lucidium, or
eyes? Yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah.
So Dark Woods has actually seen that with Dogman.
Interesting.
So it was really interesting that the two of them didn't know each other at all, and yet they both meant, it's like, that's why it's so great that we can all talk and, like, have these discussions, because they're so important to help further your research, his research, all these, you know what I mean? We get
Yeah.
places, we actually, like, we just gained more and more traction, you know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
it's so exciting, and I cannot wait for your docu-series. So when do you think we're going to actually get a chance to see the docu-series? When is it going to start? Where's it going to air? What, any
We
like
have
major particulars?
no idea. No idea.
No.
Like Cynthia's going to be in charge of that side of it, and like she just finished up
Mhm.
a deal that she did for HBO. Um, she's, I believe she's done stuff with Netflix and like a lot of major companies, television companies she's worked with, and so
Mhm.
no idea, no idea. We're just going to do our thing,
Mhm.
and at some point they'll like we kind of have an investor, a money backer. I shouldn't say an investor.
Mhm.
He's willing to give us whatever amount of money we need to do this, and we're just like in a situation where we just get a little bit at a time when we need it, move forward, or whatever, if we need something for this or that. But anyway, uh,
So
at some
exciting.
point they'll start putting together, the first
Yeah.
episode or two, and they'll probably, I would imagine, they will take that and just shop it. We didn't want to get into a situation where we were
Yeah.
beholden to a production company or a studio.
I understand totally.
because of the control. Like, and here's one of the things that we loved about Cynthia is what the deal that she just did with HBO. She was already 3/4 of the way through the project, almost done with it. Actually, she was nearly done editing it. They bought it from her. They wanted her to change some things within it.
Mhm.
I'll just say some patriotic things. And
And she said no.
she said, no, this is
She's your girl.
right. And this is one of the
Yeah.
things that we were like, yeah, that's, she could be perfect, when we found this out. And, in the long run, they bought it anyway. And then I think they had her do more filming to add to it, to add another side to the documentary that she did. So
Wow.
she's well known and is, in with all the right people and stuff. And she's very well respected, and she's perfect for us. Perfect for us.
That's
So
awesome. Let's see how it works though. Like things they come together. They just come together. And
yeah. And
yeah, that's
what
awesome.
what they're hoping is that we'll eventually get.
Cassie, I'm sorry, Shane, one second. Cassie or one of the other mods, can one of you guys please put Shane's link to his YouTube channel, Ozark Mountain Sasquatch? If one of you guys could do that for me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. I'm
It's all
sorry.
old stuff.
It doesn't matter. They can still you still go on there sometimes because I still watch.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, occasionally, I'm going to do another one here pretty soon.
Good.
Once I get enough of this information put together.
Me and my fellow stalkers will be joining you at your channel, Shane.
Well, I'll try to give you notice then.
That sounds good. I'll take it all day long. Again, I want to thank you. And Randy, I want to thank you too. You've been answering a lot of questions in the chat, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate both of you guys so much. And I appreciate what you do. Yeah. And it's so important. It's really important. I'm going to get emotional because it's super important, not just to me. I'm going to get
Mitten. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Nope, I'm not going to do it. There's no crying in Sasquatch hunting. Come on.
You're good.
It's important to me because I really, 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 really believe in the building of the relationship part. I feel like if we're going, I just feel like that's what we're missing. Like that's the key component that we're missing about these people. And I consider them a people. I call them Sasquatch people. I believe that they are a people, and I believe that they have, their own language, their own customs, their own everything. And then for me, that's why I get so excited, that you guys are out there doing that and you're building the relationship, and you guys are doing, you guys are like the Jane Goodall of the Ozark Mountains.
I don't know about that. That's now you're like trying to give me something that I got to live up to. That ain't gonna happen.
No, but it's true though. You guys kind of are doing that. That's what you're doing, is you're building relationship. You going out there and thinking and saying, you guys saying, you know what? They have too much of the tactical advantage. We need to flip the script. But how do we do that? So how do we do that? Okay. So we need to show them more that repetition, so that, again, you're showing them that you are predictable,
right?
Because you have to get them to what? Trust you. And that's how you build the trust, is you be all the same all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what they feel comfortable with.
Right. It's literally, I hate saying it like this because it's not simple, but it's literally that simple. Like that's how I feel about it, and I feel that way because, I've already done this once, and really this is like, we're kind of taking a step back and doing it again with these next two juvies, so like really this is like the third time. But what's really exciting about this is that we have one that has 6-inch tracks. The others, when we started with them, were like 8 3/4 was the female. So the young male would have been just under that at the time when I first, discovered their tracks out there. And now we've got one that we're going to have more time with, basically.
Yes.
It's younger, it's
Yes.
smaller, hopefully more impressionable. And
Mhm.
like our hope is that this one that has the 9.5-inch tracks, if it's the one that Mama was carrying around, it watched the other two juvies interacting with this and doing these
Right.
things. So with any luck, it's going to be more open. And as we're working with it, the younger one is going to see that and be more apt to interact with us. So really, it's a good opportunity and it's exciting and stuff. But like, I'm not going to lie, when I went in and we finally, like, it all sunk in that the other two weren't there, most likely.
You must have been so like,
It was like a heartbreaker. Yeah. It was,
yeah.
even though we were like mentally prepared for it because we had discussed that it's going to happen at some point. We
Right.
didn't know when, but it would probably happen. But yeah, it was like a kick to the gut. Kick to the gut. And
Any idea where you think they may go? Do you think they
yes,
just, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
we got
Tell
some
me
ideas.
backstage.
I mean, we've already mentioned it before. Randy, while I was in Colorado working, during that 2-year period, I was also out of state here and there working.
Mhm.
And so Randy took it upon himself to make his way down there and out into the areas around the 400 and talk to people. And
Oh, I do remember hearing
he
you
ended up
guys
getting onto
mention that.
he ended up getting onto a property that is not far from the 400 that is in the direction that I think they go when they go off of the property at times.
Mhm.
And it's another perfect spot. Like, this creek is spring fed that runs through the 400.
Mhm.
This other property that is a mile and a half away also has a spring fed creek, except this spring runs 24/7 all year round. And it's the only spring that feeds into the creek. Like,
Wow.
where the creek comes out of the hill
Mhm.
is like where we can go camp, and it's like deeper hollers than the 400, these particular hollers that we've been in already. And
Nice.
he's in the process of building a small cabin down where we like to go, right next to this spring. And so at some point, yeah, he's going to have a little cabin down there we can even stay in. And
That's
so,
cool. Randy, I'm packing my bag.
yeah, so we've affectionately named this other property the 700.
Oh, the
Yeah,
700. I love
the
it.
other property is 400, and the people that know why it's the 400 would probably figure out why the other is the 700. So, not to go into the name too much, we're not.
It's awesome, though. That's great. That is, because at least you know that you can you still have that relationship with them, with those two juvies. Like, you have that. So it's kind of,
That's our
you
hope, is
know,
that one night we're on this other property and all of a
yeah.
sudden we start getting this random interaction. It's not most likely going to be
Yeah.
random. It's either going to be the group from the 400, or it's
Mhm.
going to be these other two
Yeah.
juvies. And like, we've even discussed the fact that both of these juvies are gone. So,
Mhm.
looking back on it, we assumed that the female was older than the male because of the size, right? And we assumed
Mhm.
they were brother and sister, but we don't know that. They could have
Right.
been, they could have already been paired up to be mates. And like,
True.
like, we don't really know for sure. So for all we know, they may be a pair and they may have, um, been,
Paired young.
paired young, and
Maybe.
possibly like when the whole group was leaving the 400,
Mhm.
for those 3 years, they may have been setting up the area that these other two juvies go to and
Could
make
be.
their home, and
Could be.
and you would say, and this is from a human perspective, do they come back and forth on the property same time every year? They're actually there all the time. And when I say all the time, I shouldn't use the word all the time. um, 3 years ago, I had them on a pattern of, it was about a week and a half to 2 weeks there and a week and a half to 2 weeks off the property. Or sometimes it would be just a week. So like, when I started bringing the guys in for these group trips,
Mhm.
I was using that to predict when they would be there for sure. So I knew when to bring the guys in, so I was able to, like, when I started bringing these other guys in and like trying to build this team.
So you knew you
I
could.
was bringing them in,
You
yeah,
could
and
figure.
knowing
Yeah.
from the pattern that was already set that I'd kind of just came across and figured out, just through looking at patterns, looking at the patterns and their predictability, which is their predictability is very little, but they do absolutely create patterns. So I wouldn't say they migrate, how I was looking at it then was that they had like a big circular pattern, a big circular area that went onto different properties. And like say, for instance, the male, we don't see the male and find his tracks a lot. When we find the female's tracks and the juvie's tracks, the male typically isn't with them, right? So it would give us the idea that the male is like maybe like he has an area that he calls his, right? Like this is my property, and if you have a property, you're going to run the outskirts of that property at times to make sure nobody's coming on your property, right? And also, if the other thought is if they stay in this one spot all the time, they're going to drain the resources. So it's like instead of staying there all the time, they have just this grid or this pattern or maybe a big circle that they go through. They come to this property for 2 weeks, week and a half, and then they make their way over to this other property where things are bountiful and fruitful, and then make their way, eat there for a while, come back over, just thoughts. We don't know this for sure, but we're trying to figure that out by getting on these other properties because we know that they do leave the property sometimes.
Yeah.
Attract them off the property, and they've been seen coming back onto the property in a different spot. So, which also gives us the notion that they're doing this clockwise pattern on and off the property. So,
again, another that's not everybody would pick up on that. That it's a clockwise thing. That's actually that's an important piece of data.
Yeah, here's another little funny piece of data that I can't say I figured it out. There's just my thought, my theory behind it is these breaks and twists. I have found many of them and been able to. I found them because I was following a trackway or a compression trail, and most of the time when I find these and there's a trackway to go along with them, it's the right hand that is doing the breaking and twisting. I have found it on the left side, but predominantly the right side.
Interesting.
And I can only say that if I'm correct in how they are breaking things, right? So I'm going to move back just a little bit, but the way I see these breaks and twists being broken is the break and twist is always like if they're walking this direction, the break and twist is always twisted out and back, right? So to me, that means that they're reaching out with their hand like this, grabbing the, whatever, the sapling or whatever. And as they walk by, they're breaking and twisting it, right? So they grab like this. As soon as they do that, it breaks, right? So from here to here, there's the break, there's the twist. So it's a reach out, grab, break, twist as they're walking by. So if I'm correct in that, then we're also able to see at times, due to the trackway and the direction that they're going, which hand they're using predominantly when they're reaching out and doing these breaks and twists. So just another little interesting tidbit.
That is. I mean, I never would have even thought about it like that.
But I have to be correct in my thought process on how they're doing the break, right?
Right.
If that's wrong, then that means nothing. So I haven't seen them do it, but I've been following trackways and I know the direction that the tracks are going and the brakes are on the right side. And just by looking at these twists and these breaks and seeing how they're done over and over and over, that's the only way I've been able to come up with. So
do they leave them there though? Like after they do those breaks, do they leave them there or do they ever come back and remove them?
they seem to just leave them there. that video with the rock on the log,
Mm-hmm.
actually just back and to the left, another 5 foot out of the frame was a break and a twist that had been there for a while. It was dried up and older, at least a few weeks old. So it seems as though they leave them, and I don't know if it could be like a tick, like something they do subconsciously. I have seen a particular video where it seems as though as this thing is walking, every time its right arm would go out, you could almost see it reaching out like this and grabbing and pulling as it goes through the thicket, so anyway.
Interesting. Thank you. It has been
real quick before we go. I sent you two thermal pictures. We have to show them. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I sent you two thermal pictures. One of them is a screenshot of the capture that Randy got, and one of them is me in the same spot. And what I want to point out is that when you look at these two pictures, I am roughly the same size as whatever was there when Randy was there by himself. And going along those lines, something my size, I would guess to have 9 to 10 inch feet, just going by what we've seen. And I want to point out something else. And Randy has said this before. I'm usually lacking at bringing this subject up, but we call them Bigfoot. And in like cartoons and stuff, you see Bigfoot and they always have these huge, enormous feet, right? But it's not the case. Their feet are the size that they should be for their height, right? So I'm seeing a female juvenile that is about my height, and I'm finding her tracks, and her tracks are 9.5 to 10 inches long, right? That's not much bigger than my foot. And say she's just a couple inches taller than me. That's like in the human range, right?
Yeah.
So this notion that their feet are oversized is bullcrap. It's wrong. Like, we're thinking too much into it, and the name. Like, if something is like, look at Shaq's feet. They're huge, but he's a huge guy, right?
Right.
So it's not that Shaq's feet aren't oversized. They're the size
they're proportionate to his body.
Yes, they're the size they should be for Shaq, and to carry his weight and to move his body. So to think that like a Sasquatch my size would have 12 or 13 inch tracks is crazy, right? They're proportionate to their size, just within, I think personally, just from our data, within the human realm of their height. So just another little tidbit. I
love it.
I just want to make sure I said that. Randy is good at pointing things like that out, and I forget to sometimes.
I do not have an email from you.
Uh-oh. Well, that's okay. We'll get it next time.
Is Randy gonna send it to me?
Huh?
Is Randy sending it to me or no? Oh, he did send me something.
Did he?
Not the thermal though. He just sent me a few pictures.
Okay, well, here, we'll do this real quick.
I will wait for your thermal footage. Is it like uploading? Is that what it is?
No, it's just a picture. I thought I'd sent it in one of those emails.
No,
but probably won't come through real well on this. But that right there is from camp. You see that heat signature right there?
Yes.
So I know it's not coming through real well. It's a little fuzzy, but it would be clear if, if you had it. But that heat signature right there, see if I can get it in without it getting too crazy. You can see it's hotter where the face is. So what you're looking at there is basically like this view right here, right? It's kind of turned sideways with its left shoulder more forward, and it's looking at an angle. And in the picture, I won't bother showing you the picture of me there, but I'm about the same size. And the difference is with me, I'm actually hotter and brighter. And the thing that Randy captured there, the face is brighter, the facial area, and the rest of it is all like the same color. So if you think of something covered with hair, right?
Right.
The areas where the skin is exposed is going to be hotter. And there's literally like the heat signature is like this, right? And then you can see the rest of it and it's a different color, which would be the hair, right? So it's
Cool.
interesting how
He
it
just sent
came out.
he just sent it to me. Hold on. I emailed it to myself. Hold on.
I don't think he has the screenshot of me though.
Okay. I think if I wait, I wanna.
All right, I'm getting ready to send you both of them right now.
No, I think this is what he sent me. Is that it?
Yeah, that's one of me getting into position. Yeah, like he was having me like, move up and down to try to match the position of it.
Okay, and then he sent me another one. He sent me another one.
If I can get to it. Okay,
Well, let's see if this is the other one that he sent. Let's see. Okay, let me take this one.
There we go. I just sent you two.
And let's see if this is it. Is that the same one?
Yeah. That's me.
Hold on. I pulled it up. Where did it go? Marty, where did you put it? Oh. There we go. Hold on.
Two hours later.
I know, right?
You keep trying to get off here, and I'm like, hold on, one more thing.
No, we'll stay as long as you want. I mean, we'll go 3. I don't care.
That right there. So that's what Randy captured. That's the original.
Okay.
And you see where the face would be. So we're looking at a left shoulder and a head, right? And that's about a 6 to 7 foot drop off right there. That's actually where the creek starts. So it's in the dried up creek bed.
It's down in there.
It's down in there. Now there was a little like gravel shelf.
Yeah.
That I stepped up on when I was trying to get into position. And so I could get up to where about, mid stomach is about as high as I could get.
Mm-hmm.
And when I stepped down off of that little shelf, I was in about the same position as that thing was.
Wow.
So,
Randy, thank you.
And
cool.
I saw awesome. I just want to say real quick, talking to Dark Woods and who had him on their show recently?
Well, he's been on my show previously. He was on my show a few months ago, and then he's also been on Duke at World Bigfoot Radio.
Yes. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. He was recently on there too. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
He's on my show. He's been on my show. Gosh, he's been on a few shows. Yeah. He says, because he recently posted about the film thing, and he said a little bit ago that I guess there's some other people, because he posted it on his Facebook page, and there's some other people now that are saying that they've seen that. So I wonder if
Interesting.
that's yeah. But, you know, it just when Jeremiah mentioned that to me, I was just like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not the first time I heard that. Cause he was like, I know you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I saw blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't think you're crazy. I've heard that before. So is there anything else you want to cover before we go?
No, I mean I could go on for another
Oh,
2 hours, but yeah.
don't tempt me.
No, I just
You'll
you know
be here till midnight.
I thought I'd send all those things to you and we'd
And
just kind of
thank
discuss
you.
them and
Thank
throw
you.
some things out there
I really appreciate it. I really do.
and
And
and I actually haven't showed any of those track castings publicly. So like what I showed on here is the most anybody's seen.
so I got an exclusive. I got
It,
bunches of exclusives tonight,
and you got to hear the audio
and I got to hear the audio. That audio was
that nobody's heard. Well,
a couple people.
yeah,
That's
there's like
amazing.
I think there's 3 or 4 people outside of our little group that's got to hear it. So
That's pretty cool.
and you just got to hear a
That's
little
cool.
piece of it, but
It doesn't matter. I mean, I just appreciate the fact that you're sharing it with me, and it's something that I don't take for granted. I don't take for granted, when I have people on my show and I talk to people and they share things with me and they trust me. Those things they never see the light of day. You know what I mean? Like I can hold a lot of secrets. I'm very good. That's one thing I'm very good at. So, I can hold secrets. But I thank you so much for everything you shared with my audience tonight and showing us those tracks and talking about some of these very controversial things that, you know, can be controversial just because they are, right? Like
we're gonna
what
be we're gonna be going against the grain on some things here
yeah.
soon, and if
But
it's
that's okay.
I wouldn't say it's controversial, but like we have to go with what our data is showing us, and it is what
Yeah.
it is, you know.
Hey, you got to everything about what you guys do, what all researchers do, you're hoping to find that one groundbreaking thing. You
Hmm.
guys are finding that I mean, it's not just that you guys have found one groundbreaking thing. You guys are finding patterns over time with the same individuals. So it's a very different kind of thing. And you really are following your data and you're being transparent about that. No matter how it may seem or how other people take it, it doesn't matter. You guys are being true to
You say
yourselves
you
and
say
transparent.
transparent. Hold on, you say transparent, but we got to
Yes.
go back to keeping secrets. I guess that's not really not being transparent, but
Well,
I'll
no, what I
say
mean is, I'm not going to share your stuff.
right,
I
yeah,
would
yeah. No, I
never.
got you. I
That's what
got
I
you.
mean.
I was talking about us being transparent. Like we have
Because,
so much stuff, and let me tell
yeah.
you, I have to say this just because I have to laugh at Randy about this, but like
Hey, Jessica.
this is killing Randy not being able to release this audio and not being able
I
to release
know.
a lot of this stuff that we have.
I can
Like
only imagine.
we don't believe me. We want so bad to be able to like put this stuff out
Yeah.
and get people's reactions and all that stuff. But we just can't right now, because of the situation we put ourselves in, having
Yeah.
academics working with us and around us,
Mhm.
and also with, of course, the docu-series, we got to save some stuff for that,
Right.
but it's I know it just drives Randy nuts. His favorite thing is coming back from these trips and getting to share stuff. Like that's why
Yeah.
we do it. Is for information and data, and we like to share
Right.
that data. And
Yeah.
now we're in a situation where we got to sit on stuff for a while. It's just like
I know. It's maddening. It can be very maddening because I know that because it's like I know Matt does the same thing. He'll be like, well, I can't talk about this or I can't talk about that, and
yeah, yeah,
we can't show this, we can't show that because he's going to put it in his film, and
right,
so
right,
it's like I get it, I totally get it. But that's why I was saying, like, but you guys are transparent about your findings. It's not that you guys don't ever share. Sometimes you have to, like you said, you have to. There are certain pieces of evidence you can't share sometimes until you vet it out,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
this samurai chatter that you guys believe is samurai chatter or sounds very similar to that. Sure it does, because that's what I heard. Anyway, um, you know, getting things like that vetted out before you go and release it. It's very important to do. And it's the responsible thing to do, because
Yes.
not a lot of people do that. They go out. Okay, maybe I better not say it. No, I'm saying it. They go out and they walk around the woods and take a whole bunch of pictures, and then they go home and they look at it on their iPad and they zoom in and go, "Oh, look at this. Look at this Sasquatch that I found." And then they're posting it on Facebook.
Guilty. I've
That's
done it. I've done it a couple times early on. I did it too.
I get it, but you can't say definitively that that's a this or a that if it is blurry and you can't quite see it.
Right.
You can say something to the effect of, "In my opinion," or "I believe," but not be like, "Bam, this is what it is, people. Take
Yeah.
it as fact.
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
they look like. This is what they do. They do this to you on purpose."
Uh-huh. And like Randy just
That's
mentioned,
irresponsible. That's
Randy just mentioned
irresponsible.
too, that, you know, regardless, there are always going to be people who are just doing it to try to get in the limelight, or just doing it to get
Yeah.
attention, or doing it to, you know, people do things for all kinds of reasons to fit in.
Mhm.
You know, I personally know somebody that I believe at one point found some legit evidence and got a lot of attention for it. And after that, everything that they put out was bull crap, and they were only doing it because they had that want for more attention and the
Right.
pressure of trying to find something or coming out with something that was better than what they already had, you
Mhm.
know. And like we don't
And
care about that.
sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Patterson
We can go.
Gimlin film right there. Look, they put it out. It took how many years for people to actually even accept it? They were considered hoaxers to begin with, right? And it's been how many years? It's had to be dissected, remastered, a million different ways, right?
Yeah.
And it's only, I would say, in the last 10 or 12 years that people are like, "Yep, that's Patty.
Yeah.
She's the golden standard."
And this is one of the reasons,
Yeah.
like, that we're not. Yeah, we've been sitting on some things for quite some time, and
You
like,
got it.
you know, we had, like, when the first documentary came out, all that stuff was like 2 years old by the time the documentary came out, and people like didn't realize that. A lot of people had no clue. Like when that came out, we were already 2 years further into what we were
Mhm.
doing, like already starting to approach these things at night, and getting close to them and stuff, you know, and like people had no
Yeah.
idea that was going on. You know, they're watching
Right.
that documentary for the first time and thinking this was recent, and it wasn't, you know. And so it's that not putting it out right away also helps us, because like that's, people fall into that pressure of,
Mhm.
I gotta, you know, I gotta come out with something new. I gotta show something
Mhm.
new. I gotta show something new. I see people fall into that crap.
Yeah.
I've seen several people fall into it. And like if you're gonna be serious about this, you need to have people on the outside of your inner circle to vet evidence that
Yes.
don't care about your opinion, right?
Mhm.
That's very
Mhm.
important. The people
Yeah.
that are vetting your evidence have to not care about your opinion. They have to be looking at the evidence and the evidence only, right?
Exactly.
And then, like, you have to do due diligence and vet yourself. Like me and
Mhm.
Randy have several things that we could have put out and said, "Hey, we're not sure what this is. We think it may be a Sasquatch." And a month later, after a month of searching the internet for these, you know, sounds or whatever, we finally found them, you know.
Mhm.
2 months later, whatever. Like we have stuff we've sitting on, and we don't know what it is. It's odd and it's crazy, and it'll never see the light of day because we've forgotten about it, because we don't know what it is and we can't match it to nothing, you know. So like the vetting
Right.
process is over and we don't have a clue, and it just is what it is, you know. We have lots of audio like that, especially, but
Yeah.
you know, as far as pictures and stuff, there's no
Yeah,
point in
but you
putting.
gotta vet. But
there's
you
no
got
point for us to put it out till we get the crystal clear picture,
right, right. But that's what I'm saying. You guys are doing it the responsible way. It's, to me, in my opinion, it's responsible.
Believe me,
And
it could be done way better though. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a
yeah.
backwoods boy, and Randy has his background. He's got actually, Randy has a pretty good variety of backgrounds, as do I. But like, our backgrounds aren't in science, on collecting evidence and all this stuff. We're just the guys that have been able to get ourselves close to them, and we have to bring in people. We have to bring in other people smarter than us on these particular points
Mhm.
in these certain areas of the research that we're doing and evidence that we're collecting. And we just have to let them do their thing with it. Like,
Yeah.
anything that we say is only going to be, they're only going to add credit to what we say. And
Right.
we have
Yeah.
to let them do that first, if
Mhm.
you're doing it correctly.
Yeah.
It's like,
Again.
if you look at anything that goes through a peer review process, like, you don't get to read that paper. The public doesn't get to read that paper until it goes through the peer review process.
Mhm.
And it's like, literally, they'll keep things, like, they're trying to keep things secret in these papers, some of them, you know what I mean?
Right,
They
right.
don't want any of it to get out to the public until after the peer review, so they can say that nothing affected that peer review process.
Exactly.
And so,
Nothing tainted it. Nothing changed the outcome. Nothing
right,
was tampered with.
right.
Exactly.
Right. And you have to take your emotional connection to this away when it comes to the evidence itself.
Mhm.
Like, me and Randy have been wrong on a few occasions, and we wanted to be right so bad. Like,
Yeah.
you get emotional,
Yes.
you emotionally get into this and your evidence, and you have to be able to put the emotional ties to all this to the side when it comes to the evidence. And you have to be okay with evidence not being what you think it is or what you want it to
Mhm.
be. It just goes back
And
to the
that,
saying that I
yeah.
say it all the time. It is what it is. And that like encapsulates everything that we do. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? To an
I
extent, you
know.
just have to be okay with it is what it is.
It is what it
Sometimes it's
is.
not what you want. Other times it's more than you want,
Mhm.
Most of the time it's nothing.
And that's okay too. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, that's okay too. It's okay to, because when you're not collecting data for whatever reason, the absence of something is sometimes something,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not getting a specific thing that you normally get at another time or in another place, still says something.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. The
Exactly.
opposite, what does Randy say?
Yeah. That's a great quote.
The opposite of courage is conformity. Even a dead fish can go with the flow. That is
Amen.
so true.
This is things like this is
Words
why
to live
this
by right
is why I
here
like
on my
having Randy
channel.
around. That's why I like having Randy around. He,
Yeah.
he got all kinds of stuff like this.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. That is an amazing note. We're really gonna end this show now, I think,
Let's end
maybe.
it with that. That is a great way to end it right
That
there.
is a great way to end it. And I'm gonna read it one more time. The opposite of courage is conformity. Even a dead fish can go with the flow. I love it.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it. I want to thank you, Shane. I want to thank you, Randy. I want to thank everybody in the chat tonight, everybody who's been popping in and out of the show all night long. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, gentlemen, I love you both. You're amazing. You're still
Thank
my
you.
favorite researchers. You will always be my favorite. And
I feel like you're trying to
someday,
make me blush.
no, someday though, I want to come. I want to at least show up for a weekend. I want to go out. I want to be there and just check it out. Doesn't have to be
At,
today.
at some point, we're going to do some stuff like that. We're going to choose
It would be
some random.
so, oh my
I don't
God.
want to use the word random, but we're going to, at some point, once we get to a certain point, we're going to choose some people to bring in at random
That'd be
occasions,
fabulous.
and
Put my
Yeah,
name on the list and throw my name in the hat, and hopefully somebody picks it. That'd be
it's gonna be a
fabulous.
small hat. I'll tell you that.
Well, I want to thank you. I love you
Absolutely.
guys
Thank you for having
so
me.
much. So much. Thank you guys for being here tonight. The chat has been popping all night long. Again, Randy, thank you for answering a lot of the questions, because when you guys are here, I don't know, I just really like focus on the conversation, it's a joy for me to do with
Randy
you
was with
guys.
us in spirit tonight.
Yeah, one
We'll
day
tell
I'll
that
have
to
him on. He'll get his own show. I'll have to bug him until he agrees to it.
I'm a little more sociable than Randy is.
Well, he's gonna have to get sociable, because I've seen him on several shows, so he can come on mine too. So
Yeah, and Randy's actually a really good speaker. I would rather him do all these shows versus me, because he speaks way better than I do. I've taken a lot of kicks and punches to the head over the years, and so
No, you
it's
do.
taken a little bit of a toll on me, but I do the best I can.
No.
But this is Randy's space for sure.
All right, guys, we're going to say goodnight. Thank you, guys. It's been a fun show. It's been very informative. And if anybody is joining late, guess what? Go back and watch it from the beginning, because I guarantee you won't want to miss not one moment. Go check out, what is Randy's channel? I didn't even know Randy had a channel. What is his channel called?
I believe it's Randy Harrington, his YouTube channel.
Okay, yeah. All right.
I
So
believe it's.
yeah, go to Randy's and subscribe over there. Go to Shane's Ozark Mountain Sasquatch. Go subscribe over there. Make sure you guys hit the notification bells. Don't miss a thing. They are amazing. They've got way more coming up. Trust me, way more. They have so much evidence. It's insane. Thank you guys for sharing so much with us tonight here and my show with my friends over there, my soul tribe. Everybody who comes here, they are my soul tribe. And I love every one of them. Thank you guys. We are calling it a night, and we are headed off the trails, as Jessica says. Good night.